you listen to reason? Will you open your eyes?
Are you saying over here that irreducible complexity is not falsifiable, or just that no irreducibly complex system has been presented? I just want to clear that up.
Both, because as irreducible complexity has been presented, I would say it is an argument from ignorance, in that we can't think of anything, any other function, and therefore this system is irreducibly complex, is the way that has been asserted in the past. And so those assertions have been, I would say, unfalsifiable. Whether or not the prospect is entirely unfalsifiable, I don't know. First, we need somebody to actually demonstrate a system that's irreducibly complex, and also demonstrate how they came by the understanding that it was in fact irreducibly complex. And neither of those has taken place.
I disagree with you completely. I think actually both of them have taken place.
What are the examples?
I'll respond to both of them. First of all, I have a quote here from Judge Jones's ruling in the Kitzmiller versus Stover trial on page 76. Judge Jones actually says right here, and this is from the testimony from Dr. Kenneth Miller and Dr. Robert Pennock, the two expert witnesses in the case, as irreducible complexity is only a negative argument against evolution, it is refutable and accordingly testable. So what you have here, and he cites Miller's testimony for that. Mm-hmm. So Judge Jones agrees that the concept as a whole is in fact falsifiable. Dr. Behe, and I think he's done correctly, is you go and you take a bacterial flagellum and you knock out one of its proteins. If it can't function as a motor, under Behe's definition, it's irreducibly complex. So I don't know.
That's the whole problem. What we're trying to tell you is we don't think, and quite frankly, the majority of people in Behe's profession don't think that his definition has any sort of validity. You know,
what difference does it make?
He's setting these parameters, okay, as a way of saying, all right, well, here is a way in which something can be, under my definition, irreducibly complex and cannot have evolved into the form it's in now. And it's the premise, okay, by which he establishes these definitions that is not held to be valid. Let's talk about falsifiable. You know,
sure.
How it's falsifiable.
Absolutely.
What do you think a non-designer designed universe / life form / world would look like? What would a world and full of life or not full of life look like that was non-God designed? So
how would I falsify the entire theory of intelligent design is what you're saying?
Well, first of all, it's
not a theory.
There's no theory. This is the concept, the hypothesis, the premise of intelligent design. The premise
how would I
is
falsify the hypothesis of intelligent design?
Just intelligent design. Intelligent design meaning that all of this, everything here that we see, that we live, ourselves, our world, our universe, people, dogs, cats, these are the product of intelligent design. In other words, some sort of designer, an intelligent agency, put this together with teleological intent, like there was a goal in mind. That's the premise of intelligent design. Am I correct, or am I stating that incorrectly?
Well, the premise of intelligent design is just that there are certain features in biology that are best explained by an intelligent cause. I mean, to the degree that, as far as that goes, I mean, that's debated even amongst the intelligent design proponents. You have some who reject common descent, then you have some who accept common descent.
Fine, but I'm just talking at a basic level. What would a non-intelligently designed universe look like? What would a non-intelligently designed life form look like?
Okay, well, you would be able, well, that's the thing. The way I would falsify it is I would go and I would find, like, I mean, even Richard Dawkins admits that there's an appearance of design in nature. I mean, in his book.
But appearances aren't realities, right? We're talking about just, if you want to state as a hypothesis, the universe, planet Earth, and all living things upon it are the product of the design on the part of an intelligent agency, whether it's natural, supernatural, God, the Great Pumpkin, whoever, okay? In order to understand that it's cold outside, you have to have a frame of reference. You have to understand what hot is to understand that it's cold. Do you see what I'm saying? So, in order to be able to say this is a designed universe, what would a non-designed world look like? What would a non-God designed living thing look like?
Well, to falsify intelligent design, what I would do is I would go and find things that supposedly have the designed attributes, like specified complexity, and then prove that they weren't, in fact, made by design. Because you have a certain properties like the high improbability that it could have came about by chance, combined with the fact that it resembled something that has a high degree of specification that appears to be designed.
Okay, but
no one takes something that meets what supposedly is the design criteria, like the bacterial flagellum, and show that this thing that appears designed, not just that it doesn't look like it was produced by evolution, but has the appearance of design. It resembles, it bespeaks, it screams out that it was designed. Now show me that wasn't.
But you understand,
design, and you falsified the theory.
And you understand, yes.
No,
but
that's a shifting of the burden of proof.
that is completely not how it's done.
Yes, the hell it's not. Give me a second. First of all, intelligent design is nothing but a big argument from ignorance. All of it. Because how do you recognize that something is designed?
Because it resembles characteristics of things that
But
we
that
would
is an
normally say is
inductive
designed.
that is an inductive argument by analogy, and it is an appeal to ignorance. This looks designed, therefore it was. That's false. It is not a sound argument.
Sir, I have actually, I know you said you didn't want to hear extensive quotations, but I mean, even Bill Gates, who I think has a far more
Bill Gates?
far more knowledge in computer programming, admits that the DNA is literally a computer program, but far more complex.
Congratulations! You're now quoting billionaire software designers with respect to biology. How much further out there you want to go? Why don't you address the point that I made instead of something that is completely irrelevant?
I did address your point.
No, you didn't.
No, see,
I asked a question. I asked how do you determine that something is designed by an intelligence?
And I said, you say it's an argument from analogy, but what I would do is, like biologists have done, find things in nature that do, at first...
Here you go. You find things in nature that look designed.
Let him finish.
Okay.
You find things in nature that first have the appearance of design. I mean, people who are evolutionists have said the bacterial flagellum looks like it's a motor.
I swear to God, if you just quote one more person instead of actually having a discussion, I'll hang up.
You don't want me to cite credible sources?
I want you to have it. I don't give a damn what you cite. I want to actually have a discussion where we address the issue and you answer the question. And the question's pretty simple. How do you go about determining that something was intelligently designed? You can answer that without saying so-and-so says.
Yeah. Basic frames of reference. In order to be able to draw these comparisons between design and non-design, between hot and cold, between any things where there is an opposite to be understood.
Sure. You go in nature and you see systems that are motors, literally are motors or are computer programs like the DNA molecule and the bacterial flagellum. Then go and see if they see if they're irreducibly complex, see if they're in fact complex specified information, whether they could have come about very probably by chance, or in fact they couldn't. Then if they have a very specific purpose, and as well as that, there's a good chance that it might very well be designed.
And at any point during this process, do you ever take into consideration the fact that there is a very well-established scientific discipline in evolutionary biology that shows how these life forms, these organisms, these parts of our ecosystem, they do appear to have a sense of purpose, a sense of design, but we understand evolutionarily how they got there, how each of these things fits into its own niche naturally.
Well, I didn't say every system is an irreducibly complex system. I said that was a phrase to go and look for in specific systems. Nobody would make the claim that every single system is irreducibly complex. That would be ridiculous to say something like that.
Well,
but that wasn't what I was getting at.
I'm still waiting for an answer to my question, because when I asked how you determine that something is intelligently designed, you said you go out in nature and find something that looks designed, and then you demonstrate that it's irreducibly complex. And then you can make the case that it was most probably intelligently designed. That is not anything that even remotely resembles science or the process of demonstrating something, because all you did was say, I go out and find something that looks designed, and if I can't find a way that it's not irreducibly complex, I'm going to go ahead and believe that the best explanation is that there's an intelligent designer. That is not how we recognize intelligent design. I can tell you how we recognize intelligent design. For example, I made this the other day. It's a chainmail bracelet, really simple thing. I could leave this outside and everybody would be able to tell that it was intelligently designed. And it has nothing to do with complexity. It has to do with every single example we have of anything remotely like this is designed, and we have no examples that this occurs naturally. It is a contrast between naturally occurring and non-naturally occurring. That is how you determine whether or not something is intelligently designed. And it is folly for quasi-biologists to go around asserting that biological systems for which we have a good understanding of how they reproduced naturally are intelligent design. And that is why I keep saying that this is a big argument from ignorance, and it is creationism in a lab coat.
Yeah.